Carved on a memorial at Stirling Barracks, Great Britain, ancestral home of all Special Air Service units, is this verse. We are the pilgrims, master. We shall go always a little further. It may be beyond that last blue mountain buried with snow, across that angry or glimmering sea. We take the golden road to Samarkand. In war, patrols probe deep behind enemy lines. On contact, hitting hard, then disappearing. Since its formation in Great Britain during the Second World War, the Special Air Service has acquired a mystique. The Australian SAS is no exception. This very mystique can attract the wrong sort of applicant, the loner, the rebel, or the cowboy. Although some small spark of these may be acceptable, the qualities the regiment seeks are those of a tough but thinking soldier, capable of being trained, tempered by discipline, and the will to win.
Yeah, vehicle. He's in it. Stand by. You ready for it? Ready? Fire!
On your gun! On your gun! Get out! Take it off, take it off. Okay, get up, get up, get up! Hands behind your back, move there, move forward. Sit down, shut up.
In today's SAS, there is also the added glamour of its counter-terrorist activities. What you're about to see is 24 days in the lives of 101 servicemen as they endeavour to join the Australian SAS regiment, filmed when it happened, as it happened. Some of these men will have joined the course for the wrong reasons, because of that mystique and glamour. But now this will all be stripped away, leaving only the will to win. Even if they have that quality, it will be the hardest personal battle they have ever experienced.
Sit easy, remove your headdress. Good morning, gentlemen. Welcome to Northern and the 1 of 84 Special Air Service Regiment Selection Course. My name is Captain Mansell. I'm the Senior Instructor of Reinforcement Wing and together with my staff responsible for the conduct of the course. As the name implies, it is a selection course and not a teaching course. You will receive instruction in navigation, communications and first aid to ensure you all have the necessary knowledge to complete.
Standing by the lectern, I can see the guys are pretty tense. I remember when I did the course, I'd prepared myself for anything, but I was still really apprehensive. I'd spent the past 6 months preparing for the course by taking long runs, carrying bloody bricks in my packs by day, and by night sweating over past basic training. But there were still parts of the course which really caught me off guard. Looking along the row of faces, it's hard to tell who is prepared and who is not. But the next 24 days always tells. About now we introduce them to the directing staff, who they'll know very well by the end of the course. They'll be watching their every move and comparing notes by night. What they don't know is that while I'm giving the introduction, we've got our medics preparing a whole array of goodies. Then we get one of our star performers, Corporal Cole, to explain their use.
You have a sachet of kaolin powder. This is to be used for diarrhea. That's the big word on there. Anybody can't understand that? Scratch it out and put shits. It's the same thing. In your rooms, you will find every odd person has got a bottle of Effidex. As he reads the label, it says sparkling antacid, terrific for hangovers. But I promise you, you won't have a hangover. What did I give it to you for? Read the label a little further, and it has a 50% glucose solution. When some of you have completed long, lengthy runs in the evening, you'll find yourself pretty well exhausted. A capful of this into your cup will just lift you out of the doldrums for a little while. You cannot live on this. It is not a sustaining magic fluid, because it also contains sodium bicarbonate, and that will give you the shits, and then you'll have to use the other powder.
John Mansell's second in command on the course is Wing Sergeant Major Graham Bremer. He takes up the story.
Morning one of the course, we get them up nice and early and get them on the road. This particular session, which is a physical training exercise, is designed to set the pace for the course. What we try to achieve here is to identify some people who have come on the course for perhaps the wrong reasons, the people who are not prepared to put in their best effort on morning one. Once we've identified those particular types of people, we can single them out later on to keep more of an eye on them.
Everyone on the course is expected to be at a high standard of physical fitness. 3 months ago, they received confirmation of being accepted into the course and were issued with a set of written instructions containing the suggested physical training program for them to follow. As every man is a volunteer, they're expected to arrive in prime condition. However, there are some that just won't have had time to carry out the intense physical preparation for the course. So the opening days are designed to build these people up to a standard to prepare them for the harder activities later on. After the assault course, it's up and over the giant water pipe to the bellow of the PTI.
Okay, get the last few people in. Ready?
The pipe after the first time is going to be slippery, and because of that it then increases the student problem of getting over it. Then it becomes a difficult thing, and it also becomes a challenge at that particular time. As the dawn breaks and the light increases, we can tell who's been putting the effort in and who hasn't. It's fairly evident those who have are lathered in perspiration, unless, of course, they've tipped a bottle of water over themselves.
I often wonder whether we should really start the course like this. I remember when I did my course, it was really quite horrendous being out there on a cold, dark morning with big warrant officers yelling at me. And I consider myself to be quite a good endurance runner, and it really hurt that morning, and I was really wondering what I was doing on the course. And even later on, I've seen guys that I've played rugby with, and they're pretty tough fellas, actually dropping out of the run and spewing and gasping for air. What always brings me back to the fact that we should retain this activity as the start of the course is that, firstly, as Warrant Officer Brammer said, it sets the pace for the course. It lets the guys know that they are on the SAS selection course, and it's going to be a tough course, and they better measure up if they're going to make it. Secondly, when all the facts are in, it's generally those guys that dropped out at the start who don't make it at the end.
Northern Army Camp, 130 kilometres out of Perth, the capital city of Western Australia. It was built just prior to the Second World War to provide a base for the thousands of soldiers leaving Australia for active service. The huts are finished in corrugated iron, like ovens in summer, fridges in winter. These huts also housed thousands of displaced persons from Northern Europe as refugees from the war poured into Australia to start a new life. After the first shattering workout, most students have downed a huge breakfast and are now ready to face anything as they assemble to march back to their huts. The first casualty, Ranger Challen, is a few teeth short from a fall on the assault course. There is a minimum of spare time, a few minutes each day, and they're taken up with cleaning weapons. Everywhere, the click and rattle of bolts and magazines as SLRs are taken to pieces and painstakingly cleaned. On this first morning in the huts that have seen nearly 50 years of service, the directing staff, or DS, make their rounds. They'll have every man under scrutiny at all times. Their own performance as teachers and assessors will be criticised by their senior officers. In about 20 days' time, these innocent-looking trailers, standing in a remote corner of the camp, will become instruments of torture. Clotheslines sag under the first wash. It pays to keep smart. It also pays to learn the words of the regimental quick march, Happy Wanderer.
This might seem like a strange activity for young men to be undertaking on a nice sunny afternoon, but we are making the punishment fit the crime. Firstly, they did have dirty weapons, and secondly, if they're coming to the regiment, they should know the regimental tune. And what better time to learn it than now?
Beautiful! Get back in the hut!
I must clean my weapon. I must clean my weapon. I must clean my weapon. I must clean my weapon.
In the regiment, all members of all ages and ranks continue to undertake physical fitness training and annual fitness tests. On the selection course, I like all the staff to take part in as many of the physical activities as possible to show the blokes that it isn't as hard to do as they think it is. In fact, we've got a 50-year-old staff sergeant. He's in there somewhere helping the guys along, and he actually did his selection course when he was in his late 40s.
Complete your resection and your navigation data sheet. If you have any problems throughout the procedure...
In this opening phase of the course, teaching plays an important role. Every man must possess a good standard of weapon handling, communications. Later in the course, his life may depend on this. First aid, and the key to the SAS regiment's battle role, navigation.
Have a look at your map, the marginal information there, determine the accurate age of the map, all right? And then, once you've determined the accurate age, what would you do?
The accurate age, then I'd multiply by the years, like...
The annual change, multiplied by the annual change, all right?
1744, 45.
Meanwhile, the runners are coming in on that first timed run. The ones you see here, who have finished well ahead of time, will receive quite a boost to their morale, while the ones that come in well behind time, or behind time, will have their morale shaken. And they'll have trouble raising their confidence to complete later activities, especially as those that failed have to do this activity again. But it's not as simple as that. The fact is that we're looking for the guy that puts in 100% effort all the time, whether he finishes 2 or 3 minutes ahead of time or finishes 2 or 3 minutes behind time. We know in that case he's going to be trainable and that he's going to be trustworthy in time of combat.
Remember what I said, I want you to keep walking around until you cool down.
1811, 1813, 1817.
As well as being kept spotless, weapons must be kept within arm's reach at all times. In the old days, if you forgot, they'd tie them to you, and that includes when taking a shower. By the way, that's the 50-year-old staff sergeant.
In the afternoon of the first day, we take them to the old theatre, where they undergo their physical training test. This test is conducted to determine the base level of fitness throughout the course. And by linking the results of this test with what we've seen in the morning, we can come up with a fair overview of characteristics of people, and we can link the names of the people who have performed poorly in the morning with the ones, if they perform well in the afternoon, it leads us to draw certain conclusions about those particular people.
Here on this course, the men have to achieve a pass in the basic Army physical training tests. Each one of these men should be capable of doing between 12 and 20 heaves.
What you're about to see may shock you, but it is necessary to use this as a benchmark in the work-up phase of the course. A 14.5 kilometre run in 90 minutes. Each man carries a rifle, 3 magazines, 2 full water bottles, a cleaning kit, a day's rations, all up weighing 10 kilograms, not to mention his greens and GP boots. They've known since they were accepted for this course the ground rules for the activity. Many of them won't have pushed themselves that hard in training. Today, as you'll see, they'll have to.
A few of the DS, like, they were running along with a lot of the guys, and they'd say, well, if you keep up with me, you'll make it easy. And a lot of things like that which sort of made us, keep going. I remember seeing the finish line once until I crossed it. After that, I just remember looking up into the faces of the guys around me. I know I think I had a ton of water sprayed over me while I was laying there. And I had a few blackouts. After it was all over, I was glad I'd done it. There's no way I wanted to do that again.
Back at camp, the huts suddenly reek of liniment as tired muscles are hastily rubbed. It's about the only place where this footwear is standard requirement. Relief for tender, blackened toenails from running in boots. From the start of the course, they've been receiving navigation instruction. This truck is taking them out on their first practical navigation exercise.
This activity was originally designed because we had guys asked to be withdrawn from the course because they couldn't stand being out in the dark by themselves. This year, we've combined the two activities. When they arrive at the start point, they are told to prepare their navigation data. The task is to navigate over a 4-kilometre circuit with the students taking turns to navigate backed up by the staff. At 11 p.m, they'll be told to make camp by themselves, returning to the barracks at 5 a.m.
Remember, that's the first time some of them have been in the bush alone at night. For many of them, normally their occupation in the army doesn't require them to be there. Having got over that hurdle, they've just been told they've got a 3.2-kilometre test run.
Now, they've got half an hour to prepare themselves under the watchful eye of Warrant Officer Rasmussen.
Come on, fellas, sort yourselves out. I'll get that protractor of mine back and pencil.
Aye, sir.
How many push-ups do you owe me for that? 40, that's right. I'll get them off you later on today. What old duty student? It's you, is it? Ranger Burnett?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll change you later on, but up until the completion of PT, you'll still be responsible. All right. Right, I'll see you on the run.
14:50.
You may wonder why we picked this time of day. That's simple. It's cool.
14:27.
Really difficult runs like this are designed early on in the course as a physical and mental warm-up, like preparing for a final assault on a mountain. In this case, we have a whole range waiting in the Stirlings. Part of this warm-up includes doing punishment exercises for leaving your weapon out of reach.
The daily routine of weapon inspections continues. Warrant Officer Bremer again.
As second in command, it's my job to watch the DS as well as the students to ensure professional standards are maintained. This DS is about to make an error.
Down for 50. Range of muscle.
He's going to issue a punishment without explaining the crime.
Now, push-ups, sit-ups. Push-ups.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12,
This student is now doing 50 push-ups for a reason not clear to him.
17, 18, 19, 20, 21,
Notice,
22,
even at this
23,
early part of the
24,
course,
25,
these men are fit enough to do 50 push-ups with a minimum of effort.
30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48,
Ranger reach.
49.
Now the DS has it right. He points out the problem, ensures the student acknowledges, and then he issues the punishment.
1,
Staff who make errors are always corrected
4,
later.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16.
Upson, I left my rifle, and I don't know the regiment of soul. Upson,
There is absolutely no doubt in this man's mind why he's doing this.
Upson, left my rifle. I don't know the regimental song. Upson, left my rifle. I don't know the regimental song. Upson.
The physical training in the afternoons is divided into specific groups. One of them's circuit training within the gymnasium area itself, which takes care of the body tone of the students. Here they're doing between 60 and 80 sit-ups in 2 minutes. The next exercise is a little different.
Ranger Brown, keep it up, Ranger Brown.
Yes. Lock the arms, lock it up, man. Lock it up, keep it going. Place a pass.
Right your arm down.
Keep it locked.
Right your arm down.
Keep it locked. Guys, there will be Rangers troopers. Come on, we'll whip it. Place a pass, come on. Just hold it. Push, push, push. Hold it, hold it. Come on, keep the arms straight.
These log exercises are as tough as they look, but they're not unique to the SAS. In fact, they're standard throughout the Australian Army. They're designed to toughen the muscles, and in this case, to prepare the students for the even more severe and demanding part of the course yet to come. After 20 minutes of lifting, each patrol starts a 10-minute run, in which time they must coordinate a cohesive team effort. Some will begin to falter and slow down. This is where a natural leader will take over, driving the team to come home first. All this will be noted by the DS. At last, it's evening mess parade.
Although it's not assessed, it's an extra threat hanging over everyone. The role of duty student for the day. It brings with it extra duties and responsibilities. And if they're not carried out properly, he receives extra punishment.
26, 27, 28, 29.
The students are on extra rations to replace their tremendous daily energy output. If the Army gives you extra rations, you can bet you need them. Many have come from office jobs. They will have lost up to 5 kilos in their initial training. Now on the course, they'll lose anything up to a further 15 kilos, 20 in all, the equivalent weight of a 5-year-old child. Corporal Cole, the medical orderly.
It's my job to go around in the evenings and check on the soldiers. Even though they may be physically exhausted or even injured, they're reluctant to come forward for any treatment. And it's times like this when I go through the huts in the evening, I notice that the levels of Effidex in the bottles I issued them gradually beginning to drop. And I think to myself, well, everybody here tonight is going to be having a very, very sound sleep.
Day 5, and the first time that a candidate is allowed to withdraw. To do so before is considered possibly an overreaction. But after 5 days thinking time, these men had their own reasons for going. We asked what they thought of the course.
It was certainly what I expected, but physical preparation before I came just wasn't up to standard required.
We asked this man if he would apply for selection in the future.
Oh, no. That's not my line of work.
Some had concentrated on their physical preparation and had neglected their bookwork. This man in particular was deeply depressed.
Shit, I just tell you the truth, I really do. It's just really depressing now, just because I know I could have gone with the course. It's just that I had a lot of things going against me, you know, with about the knowledge I had, but that's about it. You know, don't worry about it, huh?
It is in everybody's interest that they leave as rapidly as possible to avoid affecting the morale of the others. By 9 a.m, they're loaded into the transport and disappear.
If you have poor officers who take the easy way out, you have an ill-disciplined and slovenly unit.
1 hour later, Lieutenant Colonel Chris Roberts, commanding officer of the regiment, is briefing the 24 officers on the course.
It's well trained and well prepared for war. And this regiment cannot afford to have anything but good officers.
As well as doing the rest of the course, the officers are required to do a little extra. The whole point of this activity is to assess the officers in a team activity requiring determined leadership and a never-say-die approach. It's important to gauge the officers in a role requiring determined, intelligent leadership, as within a year they'll be required to command strong-willed troops, often more experienced, who have proved themselves on similar selection courses and subsequently on arduous training exercises.
After this, for the next 20 hours out in the bush, every officer must navigate 40 kilometres alone, and the first day is only a warm-up. In charge, Captain John Sheehan, who takes up the story.
With only 3 hours sleep, I woke the men up and told them that they had to be at a point 10 kilometres away, and they had 4 hours to do it. We could tell by their faces that they were very happy, but they didn't know that I had a big surprise planned for them. Just before 5 o'clock, they came across a simulated accident that we'd set up, using some of the staff and some Land Rovers. Each of the teams was allocated a casualty, and they now had to get that casualty down the track to the same point in the same time. This was a much more formidable task.
Right, dump your calculator rifle down. Quickly keep a hand on his pulse. Keep a hand on his pulse.
I got mine handy.
Still breathing? Yeah.
This man here had nursing experience and was quite at home in the task he was given. This man here was carrying an injury, and I had doubts about him being able to continue much further, and he would be a problem trying to carry his end of the stretcher. All the men were normally given tasks by the group leaders, and we were interested in assessing and seeing what priorities they put on what activities. The people acting as part of patients earned 2 or 3 Academy Awards, and probably some curses from the men because they really played their part and refused to be turned over, and they had to be treated like correct casualties, although a couple were dropped off the back of the truck. We had some poles on the back of the Land Rover so that there'd be no chopping in the forest. We're looking at this stage to see how the leader went about his tasks, who was helping, and one of the early groups had the biggest men, and they had groups of 5 or 6. And the first group had 6 men who were all big men, all worked very well, and they very quickly got their stretcher together. They were soon bounding down the track, away from the rest of the guys who took much longer to get their act together and get their stretcher going. However, eventually, all of them got away. Groups of directing staff went with each of the groups so they could assess what was going on. They had to be in fairly close so that they could see what the guys were doing, who was pulling their weight, and who was doing what at what particular time. Of course, the guy on the stretcher was able to give us some information also on what the men were saying. Unfortunately, it wasn't long before the man with the bad knee was unable, or the bad ankle was unable to continue, and much to his displeasure, we had to take him off the exercise because he was unable to carry his weight and was slowing the team down. This caused another reshuffle to make sure that there was at least a roughly equal distribution between the various stretchers.
By 7 a.m, fatigue begins to set in as the stretcher parties weave their way down the track. Men take it in turns in the rest position to the rear of the stretcher. Everyone's mind set on the official finish time. Meanwhile, John Sheehan had to remain constantly vigilant.
I can see a problem here as the men begin to think less about the team and more about minimising their own pain. They're dripping with perspiration, their hands are slippery, the poles are slippery, and if the man on the right just swung round here, he'd drive the barrel of his rifle into his mate. The guy on the left, with his rifle stuck between his legs, if he tripped at that stage, would fall down and bring the whole team down. As you can see, as the team moves off, that some of the men have got their hands on the pole, and others allow the pole to rest on their shoulders or between their shoulders and their pack. You see, the less they think, the more careless they're likely to become.
Ironically enough, when the first big problem arose, it wasn't caused by carelessness, but by equipment failure. One of the stretcher poles broke. The end was forced straight into the back of the leading man. As the injured man staggers away from the stretcher, you'll notice that the DS appear to be doing nothing. In fact, they're doing their job. They're assessing what the patrol commander and the patrol members are going to do about this situation, and they're assessing on what they would do if they were on an operational patrol when there was no DS available. All these men are trained soldiers and know what to do, but the directing staff are assessing what the patrol commander puts his priorities on. The directing staff have told me by radio that the accident has occurred, and I have directed the doctor to get to the location as fast as possible.
The doctor is called up on the radio and is there within minutes. His first task to identify what has happened. He makes straight for the DS, Major Bill Forbes, who briefs him. In the meantime, the patrol leader had got the injured man down at the side of the road in the most comfortable position and was preparing to move the patrol off.
It was obvious looking at the student that he was in great distress because he realised that this was the end of the road. He couldn't continue on the course. In cases like this, you have to reassure people that everything is okay, and that's exactly what I did.
As I arrived at the scene of the accident, I realised that this group was now down to 4 men. They were the last group on the road, and they were going to have problems maintaining the pace. With these sorts of accidents occurring at this early stage of the day, it looked like being a bad day for everybody.
With the arrival of John Sheehan, it was decided that after the pethidine had had time to relieve the severe pain, the soldier could be moved by road to Northam Hospital. Now, for the first time, our film unit becomes directly involved. By slipping a ground sheet under the prone man and lifting him full length, we're able to slide him into the back of our camera car.
I was able to tell the soldier that the accident was not his fault and that it had been equipment failure and that within half an hour he would be at the local hospital. As the other teams continue down the track, I'm faced with the decision as to whether to allow obviously distressed men to continue or to take them off the course.
As the last stretcher party goes past John Sheehan, he has the opportunity to assess the condition of these men. He's not happy with what he sees and alerts the doctor.
We had already pulled out 2 guys the night before, and John and I were now worried about the guy in the slouch hat who had just passed.
He's not likely to hurt himself falling over.
By now, the finish time had come and gone, and the men were doubly stressed as they realised we were not going to stop the exercise.
John Sheehan reports back to his senior officer.
The doc was worried about Young's back though, and he couldn't find too much just at that stage because of the obvious pain the guy was in. Shifted him in the similar position, much of the position.
Notice, even while being concerned, Sheehan still pushes the men on.
Come around our left side, keep going if you're going. Don't block the bloody highway, you guys. There's people coming through. Not vehicles, your own mates, part of the tribe. Come on, you can't collapse in the middle and bring the whole show down. Don't know. Yeah, according to that, it was still going okay. It was just a pole broke in the middle. He took all the weight in the middle of the back, which the doctor fears has caused him some damage. Okay, you with us? Who are you? What's the name? Stephen. Okay, good. Yeah, what happened?
It's now hotting up in every sense of the word. It's getting near noon, and with the added stress, more men are beginning to show signs of heat illness. When this occurs, I normally like to get down and talk to the man to get an assessment on his ability to continue, or generally how he's feeling.
Legs. Wonky.
Yep. Yeah, how do you feel in your stomach?
I'm mindful of the fact that these men have spent a long time trying to get on this course, and I'm reluctant to take a man off the course until he's given every opportunity to do his best. I've had experience where one man was not allowed to attempt selection for 2 years. And on the 3rd year, when he was able to convince people he should attempt the course, he did the course with ease. And so I always attempt to let people go as far as they possibly can, but commensurate with us providing them with a good medical backup and looking after their well-being and safety. Half an hour later, we had our most severe case of heat illness. The man in the slouch hat that had caused us so much concern before had come to the end of his particular road.
All right, something must have damaged. We're going to have to lift you up to get your cold shirt off, okay? That's it, good on you.
That's all right.
Okay, there you go. Righto. Okay. I'll put this on. Okay, can you make him up a drink with some electrolyte? What have you? Try and get some warm there. Okay.
In cases like this, it's better to be safe than sorry, and I called up the helicopter.
Where the lift? Lift.
With the medevac underway, I was able to direct my attention back towards the exercise. Within half an hour, the DS had completed all their assessments, and I directed that the exercise stop. Incidentally, the man you saw flown out by helicopter was back in the base camp 2 days later, demanding his shirt back.
As well as assessing determination and endurance, we're also looking for natural aggression. But for combat, we're looking for controlled and directed aggression. Some men placed in a position like this will lose all self-control. Unless he shows the potential to be schooled out of it, he's not the man we're looking for.
Push him right back and see him go right to the other side there. Go.
Next, the first navigation exercise. To get there, the men undertake a 20-kilometre march with full equipment. This includes rifle, radio, spare battery, 4 days' rations, 6 water bottles, bedding and other personal equipment. All up, at least 50 kilograms. We continue the preparatory phase of the course by marching the men in a tight group accompanied by the DS. Only the weakest will drop out at this stage, owing to the now strong group identity. From here, they'll move alone on the navigation exercise, lasting 24 hours without rest. Many struggle on, enduring intense pain and physical discomfort. This highlights their strong sense of discipline and determination to pass the course.
The men also have to resist the soft option of getting into the ever-present ambulance and giving up. It's about this time that they're probably thinking back to Corporal Cole's medical lecture.
The needle, not for committing suicide. Picking out little thorns. We popped a blister. Ah! Oh. 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 Oh.
I'm finding the course very demanding physically. I prepared myself for quite a long time prior to the course, but I'm finding now that even the things that I did are breaking down. I have a lot of problems at the moment with my feet. If my feet were okay, I would be finding that the course hard, but nothing that is unbearable. The last 15 kilometres of today, I've spent sort of taking each step in pain, coming in, but still continuing on. That's what this course is about, is going through all the pain that you have to. Many times on the road today, if someone had pulled up in a Land Rover next to me, I would have got in and gone home. But because there's no one there and you're on your own, you continue to push yourself through. Plus, of course, there's all the pressures, not the pressures, but people relying on you all over the place that have put faith in you and said, yeah, you can do it, you can make it, and they keep you going. Your wife and your kids and whatever else. But yeah, I'm finding it very hard. Mentally, it's not such a hard thing. I'm a well-educated guy, so I'm not finding much problem mentally. But in the physical side of it, even though I was very fit when I got on here, I'm finding that the body is breaking down. And one of the facts I find is we just don't have enough rest time in between activities. As my feet are now sort of getting to the stage where they're bad, I might get a couple of days, but if they don't recover in the couple of days, I don't have much chance of being able to continue with the hectic pace.
The point of this course is that there is no rest. In fact, while the eyes of the DS are on you, it pays to perform. But there is a catch. You have got to use your head too. It's all very well running everywhere, but, as in this case, if you don't navigate correctly, you may find yourself 20 kilometres away from where you want to be.
You know,
you were off by miles. You went 5 kilometres wrong.
5 hours later, I found where I was going.
It took me 10 minutes to get to the checkpoint.
When they have time to stop and think about it, the guys begin to appreciate the weights that they're carrying and over what distances. The heavy pack alters the centre of gravity, and that changes the way that they walk, which, unless they've been training for it, causes the most horrendous blisters. It's our job to keep them going and to harden them and prevent any infection by using mercurochrome, which hurts like hell, and it looks very dramatic, but it's 100% effective. It's gutsy.
While some slept, we asked others what they thought of the course.
It's really hard, but I reckon I'm going to make it, eh? Because you just hook in, and the pain is teaching you to survive.
14 days later, this man completed the course successfully.
I come to SASR course. I wanted to see if I could prove myself. It was a lot good challenge. I heard the course was hard, and I found out it was a hell of a lot harder than what they say it is. And I've got bloody sore feet to prove it. I think I'll make it, and I'll try to make it, and I think the only way they'll get me off is on a stretcher.
Some took the opportunity to walk off. What did they think of it?
Well, I reckon the course was shit hot. It was very learning experience, and gave you a chance to learn about yourself. The reason why I gave up was lost my drive and motivation to keep going.
I've learned a fair bit, especially in navigation. Gives you a fair bit of confidence. Keeps you pretty fit as well. But I suppose the reason why I let go was wasn't really dedicated enough. Sort of drive.
At the end of the first navigation exercise on day 9 of the course, 17 men had withdrawn at their own request and 11 had been retired for medical reasons. Already the DS were able to secretly point out to us likely candidates that would complete the course successfully. Even at this stage, they were 90% correct. 2 days later, back in the huts at Northam, the fight against the dust rising from the floorboards continues. It seems to get everywhere, especially into the weapons. Once given an instruction, it's vital to follow it to the letter. In Hut 19, Warrant Officer Rasmussen finds the students 30 seconds late for weapons inspection.
In actual fact, it was about 30 seconds over 7:30. It's told to be ready for inspection by 7:30, and that's exactly what I mean.
Rasmussen is one of the senior warrant officers in the regiment. Joining 16 years ago, he's due to retire soon. He's seen service in Vietnam and holds the highest parachute qualification, free fall instructor. Once noted for his aggression, he has now mellowed with the years and has a deep interest in the well-being of the students.
That's bloody good. It's 100% on yesterday. But look at that. See that green stuff there? What's that?
Carbon, sir.
It is bloody carbon, isn't it?
Sir.
Righto. You make sure you clean that up.
It's important that he encourages them, checks out how they're feeling, and makes sure that they know what they have to do next.
Have a look at that.
He takes time to point out exactly what is wrong.
Got a bit of phobia or something bloody thing stuffed in there. You see it? Great chunk of bloody crap there. Righto. You're supposed to be ready for an inspection at 7:30. Not one of you were ready. Okay? Now I'm warning you. You'll get your name in that bloody dreaded book with the red mark if I catch any of you not ready tomorrow morning. Up! Get your ass down. Get it down. Get it down. Get it down. Come on, I'm talking to you. Down!
This is known as the Royal Marine push-up, guaranteed to improve memory.
Up! Down! Get your chest off the ground there. Ranger Burnett, up! Down! Up! Down! Up! Down! Up! Get right down, get right down!
Phase 2 of the course, codenamed Happy Wanderer. 6 a.m. on the bus. The men grab what sleep they can towards the end of a 5-hour journey to the Stirling Ranges. Some are nursing injuries. Others so far remain unmarked. Few have any illusions about this part of the course.
Generally, I feel pretty good, a bit tired maybe. Feet hurt a bit. I think the next phase will be the one to make or break us, I think.
He was right, and as the coach rolled into the campsite, the view was intimidating, but then it was intended to be.
The gloom out in the distance, we saw the big hills, and we had an idea that's what we're going to be going over. In the daylight, they looked like they were just green and grassy, and we thought, oh, this would be sort of pretty easy, it'd be just like a hard stomp.
In reality, the peaks rise up to 800 metres from a flat plain, one of the oldest mountain ranges in Australia. Its sides are covered with thousands of loose, jagged rocks.
This is where Warrant Officer Brammer comes into his own. Of anyone in the regiment, he is one of the few who would be able to tackle the responsibility that this part of the course holds. In fact, he taught me when I came to the regiment.
I have a great affection for the Stirling Ranges. I've been coming here for 12 years. I've instructed in climbing courses down here over that period of time. In fact, earlier on this year, I was down here climbing some of the peaks that the students are going to climb during this activity.
He did that to make sure he knows exactly what problems the students may come up against.
To support them, the 12 directing staff on this part of the course will have a medical team backup, helicopter, ambulance, water truck. Everyone is issued with a radio. Even on a map, you can see the area is difficult. In order that they may remember the challenge facing every student, the DS are first taken by truck to a central point and then required to hike and climb to their mountaintop checkpoints. The first task facing the student is to navigate a short 12-hour course over a peak carrying a 50-kilogram backpack to a finish line without using any tracks.
When we started on the first day and we did the first hill, we found out that it was a lot harder than we thought. After the first day, we thought, well, that was it. That was the phase over. But the next day, we got the 5 mountain one. And in my mind, I thought that it was a joke sort of thing, and that they're going to we're going to go out there, and then half an hour later, they're going to call us back.
So now there are 5 mountains to climb in 5 days.
Here, the man with the self-discipline, initiative and strength of character to keep going when the going gets really tough will succeed, as he has to navigate a route across 5 peaks in 5 days alone. He must prove he can make rational decisions and maintain his morale without a companion to encourage him or act as a prop.
Out there in the re-entrance and the gullies, it's real tiger country. The hakea bushes that have been burnt in the past are fallen down and tempered like mild steel. In fact, when you're out there with the hakea raking up the front of the legs and creating tremendous soreness in the shin bones, and the backs of the legs cramping from walking down the hills, and the pack on your back finding new spots to hurt. It's times like those when these students will sit down and scream or even weep with the frustration of it all.
In country like this, the loose stones underfoot make easy walking impossible, and the weight of the pack as it constantly catches on the branches can throw you off balance. Many men get entangled in the thick scrub and have to struggle in and out of their packs up to 8 times in an hour. Make no mistake, this is dangerous country. That's why the men are given radios and smoke grenades, and why the chopper is on constant standby. On mountain slopes like this, they'll finally have to face themselves and discover their own ability to carry on. The chopper lands our camera team at a checkpoint on Mount Hassel, where the DS is already waiting for us. From our second helicopter, high above, we can see the scale of the countryside. As a precaution, the men are not allowed to walk at night, but neither are they allowed to use the golden roads you can see far below.
There's no easy physical solution. The idea, or the trick with the Sterlings, is to outsmart the terrain. The cross-country direct line from point A to point B is not necessarily the best way to go. At 2,000 feet above the ground, we're in eagle country. This young man that's approaching one of the checkpoints is looking remarkably fresh, but what we've got to remember is that this is really only his first checkpoint.
Romeo Tango, ring to a checkpoint hotel, and you're right here at 1320, okay?
As they arrive, each student is required to report via radio telephone to base camp, where his time of arrival and exact location is logged by Graham Bremer and his staff, who provides a margin of safety.
Romeo Tango, this is Sierra 92 at Checkpoint Hotel at 13, 1310.
It's here the men come to appreciate their communications instruction on the course, as it's now their lifeline.
That's right. Back's a bit sore. What's that, just from carrying the pack, is it? Huh? Just from the pack? Yeah, I think so.
Sometimes students will tell the directing staff that they're feeling okay, when in actual fact they're not. Now this will be evident to the directing staff because they're all experienced people. The directing staff are also experienced at detecting those people that will complain of injuries which perhaps they don't have. I mean, they will be sore for sure because it's the nature of the terrain.
The psychological impact of country like this can be shattering. The pure loneliness, accompanied by the hostile conditions and the extreme stress of the situation, can affect the mind in subtle ways. At a mountain checkpoint, our cameras observed what is apparently a normal situation.
Romeo Tango, Sierra 17, over.
This student is correctly checking in with his position and time of arrival and next destination.
Lockstedt Hotel, proceeding to Whiskey Alpha, figures 1214, over. Sierra 17, roger out.
So far, so good. The DS now asks him, how much water has he left?
Bad on water.
Yeah, there's a water point down the bottom of the hill. How much you got?
About 1.5 water bottles, I think.
Now, watch for the first clue.
There is water down there, is it?
Yeah, there's a water point. Should have it on there, haven't we?
Yeah, it's got it here. I was just wondering, all the other places have been through, whether there would still be water.
There it is. Is he in fact saying that he thinks he is last and trying to give the DS the opportunity to confirm this and perhaps suggest that he is so far behind it's not worth continuing? Or is he asking for encouragement and reassurance that he is not last?
Yeah, they seem to be holding it.
The moment passes and his confidence seems to be returning, despite the evident wear and tear he's experiencing.
Did they had to protect the legs a little? Yeah.
"20 kilometres away, the chopper takes off to retrieve a man who has pulled the pin. Used as a term to denote quitting the course, it does literally mean, in this case, pulling the pin from a smoke grenade. Back on Mount Hassel, the DS picks up that information and tells the student that someone else has quit.
There's another one, champion.
Four nines is giving it away.
No one's pulled the pin.
Yeah. Listen, I've got one here. You want to?
Nah, all the more chances for me.
Yeah.
On the face of it, a very positive reaction, indicating that there is no doubt in his mind that he's going to continue and be successful. As we watch, however, he sets off in completely the wrong direction, heading for the peak of the mountain. We leave to continue to film. 2 hours later, flying back over the same mountain, we spot the lonely figure of the same student, still on the summit, poring over his map, obviously having come to a complete mental full stop at the sight of his next objective. He can't even decide to pull the pin without help from the DS. So we wait for him to return, which he does 3/4 of an hour later. Again, he will look for sympathy. What he gets will be encouragement.
It's a staff responsibility to ensure that any student who has contemplated withdrawing himself from the course for any reason, to encourage them to continue if it's at all possible to do so.
What's that, mate? I want to keep going, but just so far behind time.
No, you're not. It's
Really?
bullshit. It's only Monday. You're not that far behind time. No way. It's Monday. You got till 7 o'clock Wednesday morning. This is your second peak. You can still crack another one by bloody 5 o'clock tonight. You've got till 9 o'clock tonight. You can be over that one and halfway down another one. It gives you 2 to go on the
You've been
eh?
last
sitting
day.
up the top, have you?
I've been wondering, yeah.
How long have you been sitting up there for?
Since I left.
Why don't you say something down here?
Oh,
Well, you feel all right then?
yeah. Just wanted to keep on going.
Look, you're still well within time limits, mate. There's guys still dragging themselves up this hill, you know, with bloody injuries and everything. And there's another guy that left yesterday because he was misplaced on the one before, and he's still going, and he's nearly on his way in, and he's still got time to make it. There's no reason why a fit guy like you can't.
You sit down and have a brew anyway.
Sit down and have a brew and have a think about it.
Think
Give
about
yourself
it,
an
right?
hour. Just have a brew and just have a think, all right? But you can still do it. It can be done. It's not an impossible thing.
In the event, he decided to go on and completed 4 out of the 5 peaks, which is an acceptable performance. He proved to himself that he could climb one more mountain and accept the challenge of the Stirling Ranges.
Down below at the water points, the only place where the men are permitted to meet, they're checked up by Corporal Cole, the medic. It looks like a scene from Gallipoli, as the men have been blackened by charcoal from the burnt-out bush. Time only for a quick navigation check and to snatch a meal. Since the start of the exercise, a trickle of students have been returning to the base camp. The ambulance and medical staff are continually on call to go to the assistance of the injured. Like this man. Having survived his blistered feet, he has finally had to be retired with a torn back muscle. But not all who are withdrawn are victims of medical problems. Many give up, and in spite of the instruction they have been given, some become so hopelessly lost that they have to be withdrawn for their own safety.
500 kilometres away at Northam, the course headquarters, I was being kept closely informed of those withdrawing from the course and the reasons.
The Sterlings had done their work and had weeded out all those that could not make it alone. In all, a total of 12 men had withdrawn at their own request. 5 were taken off injured. Among them, a man from the Royal Australian Air Force, until then one of the favourites to finish the course.
Yeah, I was just halfway up the hill from the start point, and I fell backwards about 10 feet down the re-entrant, landed on my pack, and tried to stand up again, and just incredible pain around my kidney area. I tried to keep going up the re-entrant and got about 200 yards, and that took an hour and a half just to go 200 yards. I'm really, really disappointed, but I did all my crying yesterday. I was really disappointed. Hopefully I can come back next year. I think the warrant officer said that I've been recommended. But just to come so far and have something like a back just play up, you know, it's a beautiful day. I wish I was out there now, I really do. But I can't even climb a hill, you know.
Got to the bottom of the hill, I looked up. I could have made that first one, no worries at all. There were 4 more to go after it, and I figured if I was going to pull the pin, that was the time to do it rather than halfway through. The people that run the course keep talking about pushing yourself to the limit, and for me that's the most disappointing thing, because I didn't push myself to the limit because I'm physically capable of going on, and this is the only course that I know of, and the only time that I know of that I could have pushed myself to my mental limit, and I didn't, and I don't think I'll have that opportunity again. But the fellas that have got this far, I don't think they've got anything to be ashamed of, and that's something I want to make bloody clear too. Unless you're on a course like this, you can't really judge people that pull themselves off. You can't judge all of them because it is a hard course. You think bad enough of yourself without other people having a go at you.
A day later, back at Northam, by comparison, it's almost a holiday atmosphere, as the remaining men are taken to the top of a wheat silo 36 metres from the ground. It's a test requiring another sort of courage.
Okay, back over the edge. Remember, feet wide apart. Keep them wide apart on the way down. Okay, a bit wider. Wider, wider. Okay, lean back.
What do you want to do?
Okay, step over, 1 foot at a time.
We timed this part of the course to provide a buffer between intense physical and mental activities. It's now we give them a basic grounding in rope work.
Okay, from there, what I want you to do is keeping your legs up and the balls of your feet on the face, just skip down in little hops, okay? Away you go.
We're testing the student's ability to absorb information and apply it while controlling his emotions in a stressful situation. In this case, we're really testing his ability to control fear and trust his mates.
Okay, check. Righto, hands off. Hands on. Rappel.
It's pretty nervous to start with. It's not as bad as what it looks. The more you do, the more confident you get. Straight in it, mate.
Okay, lean forward, commit yourself, go for it.
Corporal Quinn knows exactly what the students are going through.
I can recall
the first time that I was in that situation. I looked over the edge and it was rather a daunting sort of an experience. I was fairly frightened, and I thought back to what the instructors had already told me and how I was going to do it. And I listened to what he was telling me as I was going over the edge about straightening my legs, keeping my hands low, keeping a grip on the rope. And by a combination of what he'd shown me or taught me, and by listening to him with his calming voice and all the rest of it, he talked me over the edge and I had no great dramas.
Come on, move your left foot. That's it, you're away.
He slipped. Doesn't matter. He's over the edge. That's the sort of thing we're looking for. A bloke that'll have a go.
Run, Jamaica. You're laughing. Straighten your legs. Come on, stand up. Straighten your legs out. That's it. You're away. Well done. Good. Okay, you feel that? Piece of piss, isn't it? Get your feet back under your body. Get them back up.
If you think this is unnerving, if he gets into the regiment, he'll be required to do this at night from a helicopter, and that's a different ballgame. Swimming plays a major role in the tasks undertaken by the regiment, and when you consider a third of our troops are trained as underwater swimmers, it's an important skill. All infantry soldiers should be able to swim as a result of their initial training. It was surprising to find a number of men, including those trying to join us from the Navy, couldn't complete the tests.
Get back out there.
Watch this man, not a good swimmer, lose control of the situation and panic.
Come on, you're up. Keep going. Go that way. Don't stop. Like swimmers, you've got to keep moving to stay upright. Come on. Keep going. Swim hard.
That's it, keep swimming. That's the way.
Keep going, that's good. Good effort. Keep swimming.
The DS, by encouragement, managed to psych him up and pull him through. One of our NCOs, who was a patrol commander in Vietnam, made the point that a patrol member who could not swim was a liability. In those days, the man would not be accepted into the regiment before he could swim. Nowadays, as long as the man puts in a sound effort, we will undertake the responsibility to train him.
After the range, they also have a chance to learn from the old hands.
So let's get on our feet and just shake out to about 3 yards apart, and we'll just walk through as I talk you through it, right? So on your feet, about 3 yards apart, so it's easy for me to control. And of course we can magnify the thing bigger once we know what we're going to do.
After a briefing by Warrant Officer Danny Wright, one of the many men in the regiment who served in Vietnam, they take part in a patrol incident drill. In its war role, the regiment operates in small patrols deep behind enemy lines. It is there that the comradeship, trust and skill they acquire will pay off and enable them to survive and work efficiently as a team.
Talk to each other! Last man! Go!
No bullets here, though, not even blanks. Valuable experience, nonetheless.
Righto, last man, get out! You want to keep on with it? All break! Bang, 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 bang! Okay, carry through!
The Australian bush may look picturesque, but these black boy bushes harboured millions of ticks, which gave a lot of trouble to students and DS. One man is bitten 150 times. Day 18, Bindun Army Training Area. Unexpectedly, the men are frisked and searched for food.
These yours?
No, not mine, sir.
Somebody else's. Somebody put them there, did they?
Everything must go, except for one 24-hour ration pack. They don't know it, but this must last 72 hours. This is the start of the third and final phase, codenamed Lucky Dip. Unlucky for some, as secret supplies are found.
Essentials of Vegemite. Don't come in ration packs, do they?
Afraid not.
Cigarettes are also forbidden. In fact, anything that's going to help ease the stress that the men will experience from now on. They'll be split into 7-man teams, and over the next 3 days will be given 6 separate tasks. Even at night, when they would normally rest, they'll be required to carry out patrols, as if in hostile country, doing reconnaissance of enemy camps. If they're lucky, they'll get 1 or at least 2 hours of sleep a night. Already some are hungry and start their rations.
See what happened to me, Vegemite? Oh, Clifton come up and stole it, had it in the rat pack. What's that?
Nearly got it.
Yeah.
Just put some boot polish on this.
One by one, the teams move out into the bush where they'll rendezvous with the DS, who will give them their first night patrol duty. Next morning at sunrise, after an hour's sleep, they rendezvous again for the first of the day's tasks.
All right, Rangers, listen in. What happened last night, the agent that you met has had a contact. The enemy, for some reason, have taken all the wheels off the vehicles, and the agent's comrades have left him and are not likely to return. It's your job to devise a plan on how to get the 4 wheels back on the vehicle and to get it on the road.
That wheel now, mate. Keep going up. Steady.
During the contact last night, a piece of the...
But to add to their problem, the DS now tells them that they can no longer use the engine.
But the vehicle has to get to grid reference 333394. How do you propose to get it there, Ranger Lieutenant?
He's going to push the boat.
Push it, okay. All your gear on. You better hurry up and get out on the road.
Let's go, fellas. Yeah. Cool.
The DS has a very difficult job on his hands. Are these men being genuine, or are they putting out all the right signs for the wrong reasons? Are they using body language to cover up for their inadequacies? To cut out any biased view which might be coloured by the staff's own experiences in situations like this, we have devised a scheme. Each task has a different set of staff, so that eventually all the students come under scrutiny by at least 6 separate individuals throughout the tasks you're about to see.
As they start this 5-kilometre push, although they suspect something is wrong, they don't know it, but they've had their last meal for 2 days. Several things could happen in the group. The more suspicious ones will discipline their intake and make it last as long as they can, down to the last suck of a tea bag. Others, not so disciplined, will eat all their food in the first 24 hours, for one reason or another. When they realise at the end of the push that there is no more food, they have to make a decision. Some groups with a strong rapport and a good natural leader will share the remains of their food around, especially from those that have eaten slowly.
Give up, lads.
Other less cohesive groups with less dynamic and less innovative leaders will carry on as if nothing had happened. Those with food retain their energy. The ones without go without and get weaker, pulling the group down.
It should be the officers in the group who take charge of the situation to ensure everyone gets something to eat. Sometimes it will take him longer to realise the practicalities of what is really a survival situation. On the other hand, he may think it better to demonstrate his strength by shutting up and carrying on as best he can, allowing the appointed leader to do his best. The man we want will ensure the strength of the group is sustained by a selfless, equal distribution of food. On the other hand, the man who makes the mistake of eating all his food early but cheerfully carries on, is good value too.
Another task, to construct a trailer using tent poles, 4 tyres and a rope. The problem? To transport equipment 7 kilometres over a bumpy track. After many discussions and a lot of effort, 1 hour and just 200 metres later, it becomes obvious to this team that Mark 1 is not going to work. There is nothing for it but to start again. After a little more pushing and shoving, they finally decide they must strip it down and rebuild it. It's now that a natural leader will be able to identify those with special skills, like knot tying and the DS. Observe how he sets about problem solving. Already suffering from the lack of food, tempers are beginning to get frayed, and minor injuries assume major significance.
I think when we hadn't eaten for a while, the stress showed a lot of the guys. You could feel your energy sort of going away, and you sort of seemed to feel the things that you wouldn't normally feel, like sore muscle, that which sort of just seemed to stand out more. I remember on the second last one we did, we kept thinking the trucks would be waiting for us at one of them to take us back.
No trucks, but back at Northam, a meal has been prepared. Chickens gutted but not plugged. The meal was designed to be unappetizing but edible. In fact, although it looks revolting, there was absolutely nothing wrong with the food. And by the time it was finished, it tasted quite all right, just a little flavourless. The cooks certainly enjoyed preparing it.
Coming up good. How's it going, Phil? Oh, good, mate, good. Eat your heart out, Margaret Fulton. No worries, they're going to love this.
Back in the bush, unaware of the feast to come, a patrol leader has other things on his mind as he's briefed by the DS. The problem, to get a wounded DS across on a stretcher without getting him wet. But first, someone has to swim across with a safety line.
The safety line is attached, okay? And the patrol to remain as close as possible to the safety line at all times, but to not to touch my rubber boat. If he drowns, he drowns. Simple as that.
That's the first problem. There is also the enemy.
There's a platoon plus, about 500 metres through there, and another platoon of enemy plus, about 500 metres through there. You're like a sitting duck there.
Now, Woodsy, you go across the right.
Yeah.
All right, grab the safety line, head off now.
20 minutes later, and a 2-man patrol with their equipment are swimming across, towing the safety line behind them.
They'll be able to pull him across.
By now, the patrol leader's grip of the situation was beginning to slacken, and other strong personalities were trying to impose their own ideas.
You stick it, take it on.
Yeah, okay. See, we can pull it across all in one go. As long as the gear's floating and that's floating, we can hang on to that, and the blokes out across there can pull us across the water.
Most of the students enjoyed the river crossing exercise as the water helped calm their tick bites.
Kick your legs or something. It's all right.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
After a 5-minute swim, they'd reached the far side, but their problems were not over by a long way.
What about the safety line?
In their eagerness to get across, they'd forgotten to untie the safety line, and it was now stretched away behind them to the far bank, leaving a telltale sign for the enemy to discover, and leaving them without a line for use in the future.
I can go across with these jerrys, undo it, and you blokes pull me across. What do you do? Got to undo that line.
Two people have to go across.
Okay, leave it like that, Clint.
Once again, the team leader, confronted by a fresh problem, finds the situation difficult, and the man with a stronger personality takes over. After recrossing the river, they returned again with the line retrieved. They're still inside the time allowed for this section, and will now be taken to a rendezvous where the food prepared at Northam is waiting for them. Remember, they have no idea what to expect.
Are you hungry or what?
By that stage, we were pretty hungry. We'd I think that morning I was still eating sugar cubes, and it didn't make me feel really good. And then the DS came over and told us that we had a meal waiting for us. And we thought, oh, great. We had no idea there was going to be chooks and cooked the way they were. But when we saw them and I opened them up, I knew we had to eat them because I thought, well, you know, they wouldn't give us something that was going to poison us or anything. So I thought, we better hope into this. So I think I ate as much as I could. And a couple of guys had the same idea as me in that aspect, and a couple didn't.
All this time, the DS are watching carefully, noting the individual reactions to the situation. Here, for example, a man looking for vegetables pours valuable soup on the ground.
No, just a juice, mate, so we can lick it.
You can drink that. See what the juice tastes like first.
Probably tastes like shit.
Oh, it's a shit sandwich at the moment. Might stop.
Apart from a few feathers, the soup tastes fine.
Oh, I've got the breast that's falling apart.
Yeah, that's not too bad.
The DS will be watching for fair and equal distribution by the leader and his control of the situation. A short while later, another patrol comes in to be confronted by the hot boxes.
I know you're pretty hungry, but the freedom fighters have finally returned with some victuals, and will now reveal them to you. First of all, the main meal, which is for consumption of patrol, and right, 2 courses soup. Right, so they're all yours, Patrol Commander. Just make sure everyone gets an even supply. I don't want to return it. Bad hospitality.
As the SAS in war operates in small groups far to the enemy's rear for up to 3 months at a time, without being resupplied by air, they must be able to live off the land if their food runs out. It might not have 11 herbs and spices, but it is perfectly edible. In combat, the sort of meal they're having now would be considered cordon bleu. If these students can't stomach this, they're not going to be able to face eating raw rat.
That's an alien.
That's the liquid fruit plate. What you gonna eat?
I'm not hungry, sir.
It tastes good, Pierre.
It's
good, Jerry.
I don't know when your next meal's going to be.
Worry the rest of the blokes if you can't keep up.
Over there.
Oh, yeah. I'll keep it.
Sorry it isn't lasagna, Ranger Piero, but I suggest you have something to eat. A few more days before you have a decent meal.
It's just chicken.
Don't be scared of it, Jerry. It's dead.
Oh, really? I'm not
What's
hungry.
that, mate?
No, I'm right. Believe me. I'm not that much hungry. Oh, wishbone too. You're hungry. Why don't you want to eat it? I just don't feel like eating it, Joe. I won't let the men down. I'll keep up with it.
I'll do it in a couple of days' time.
I'll be right.
Ranger Piero, have you ever done the survival course?
Wow.
I haven't. I can guarantee you after 3 days of eating very little, you won't be walking over a twig, you'll trip over it. I can guarantee you.
Again, it's a personal battle, and the DS will not force anyone to eat against their will. What little energy the meal supplied was quickly used up on the last task.
Get a lift.
Hey, a lift.
The quarter-ton trailers from Northam had arrived, and 1 wheel had been removed. The problem was to move it 6 kilometres to a rendezvous point. Although a no more difficult task than some of the others, their mental and physical condition has deteriorated. In the past 96 hours, they had perhaps 12 hours sleep, 2 mouthfuls of chicken, and a cupful of liquid, which had not gone very far. Although they looked fresh at the start, after only a few minutes, they're nearing physical exhaustion, and their ability to problem solve is disappearing fast.
Keep going, come on.
We had about an hour to go and we still hadn't even got halfway. We didn't have the right idea when we started putting it together, and The road that we took had a lot of overgrowth on the sides, and we had to break a lot of it off, and then we were told we couldn't break it off.
In fact, they'd made the thing too wide for the narrow bush track. They struggled on, constantly forcing each other into the prickly undergrowth at the sides. It was a nightmare end to Lucky Dip.
Left! Hard left.
8 hours later, Northam again, and the closing stage is underway. Captain Mansell, senior instructor, calls all members of the DS together for the last time. At this meeting, from the mountains of notes that have been taken on each student throughout the course, second in command, Wing Sergeant Major Graham Brenner reads their final course report.
Pace at 2 in the state he was in when he came in was incredible. He passed phase 1 of Happy Wanderer. He got 4 checkpoints on phase 2. He passed the QDE on survival and failed the aircrew identification.
John Mansell prepared assessments to which every staff member has contributed. These will form the basis of discussions on all remaining applicants.
Himself as a fairly average Joe with some potential. All reports after Happy Wanderer point toward a soldier who sometimes remains controlled under stress, yet is physically weak and emotionally immature. Because of these factors, or perhaps his natural tendency, his teamwork has been uninvolved. He is very quick to take the easy way out. His performance has dropped dramatically as the course progresses. Shows little potential for service in the regiment. After 6 hours of intense discussion, we finally had the verdict on each student. And at 8:30 that night, they waited anxiously, patrol by patrol, outside my office.
It was probably the first time in the last 24 days that there had been nothing to do. In fact, there was nothing they could do. As they marched into Mansell's office, the first thing that they saw on his desk was the SAS beret. In some cases, his opening words indicated his personal pleasure at the result.
I like that stable belt, Private Butler. Sit down.
Yes, it's the only one I have.
Looks smart. Blue one will look better, though.
Yes.
Well done, Private Butler. You passed the course. You passed all the objectives. You've obviously prepared yourself well for the course. You displayed all the qualities required of a fellow for the regiment. You're intelligent, keen, think of your mates, and that's what we really like. Probably the thing we're really... On the other hand, it's pretty tough to turn someone away who's endured everything we've thrown at him for the past 24 days. But it's got to be done. Firstly, you were discovered walking down the track in exercise Happy Wanderer with a couple of other people on the course when you were briefed not to. Your integrity is in doubt. Secondly, you have a disturbing nature of having a back answer every time you were spoken to. They might think they've had the pressure on, but we've had the pressure on too, and we've got to do it all again next year. There's only one thing. I could recommend a diet of Grow Fast. Okay?
I've been trying for years.
Yeah. Other than that, well done. Okay?
Thanks very much.
See you in the regiment.
Of the 101 men that applied to join the Australian Special Air Service, only 33 have been accepted. But it's just the first step on the Golden Road, ahead of months of exhaustive training. At Campbell Barracks in Perth, Western Australia, they parade for the first time with their new regiment, received from their commanding officer, the Sandy Beret, with its badge, the flaming sword Excalibur. Beneath it, the motto, "Who dares, wins."
There has been a lot of myth and misconception surrounding the SAS soldier. Some picture him as being 10 feet tall and 2 pick handles across the shoulders, as being big on brawn and small on brain, of being some sort of super soldier. But nothing could be further from the truth. The strength of this regiment lies in the fact that the members are not stereotypes, but represent a wide range of characters, each with his own special ability, which contributes to the flexibility and capabilities of this regiment. Above all, he is a thinking soldier.
Trooper Backy! Sir!
Congratulations.
Thank you very much, sir.
You should be right.
Yes, sir.
You're from Recon Platoon 6 RAR.
Yes, sir.
How'd the course go? Glad it's over, I guess.
Yes, sir.
What troop do you want to go to?
Water operations, sir.
Good luck.
Thank you, sir.